You might have met the dog who faithfully escorts his best friend to school every morning, but what happened next captured the heart of the entire community. The loyal dog, a gentle golden retriever named Sunny, walked beside his boy, Leo, stopping dutifully at the curb before crossing. They reached the wrought iron gates of Maple Creek Elementary. Leo, a thoughtful boy of 8 with glasses, knelt down, wrapping his arms around Sunny's neck, whispering the day's secrets into his fluffy golden coat. Sunny nuzzled him back, as if to say, "It'll be okay. I'll be here." Then, with a soft nudge, he prompted Leo to join the river of children flowing into the school. Sunny watched until Leo disappeared into the building, then turned with a quiet sigh, heading back the way he came. You might have met the dog who faithfully escorts his best friend to school every morning, but what happened next captured the heart of the entire community. Sarah Jenkins was having one of those mornings. As the principal of Maple Creek Elementary, her days were a relentless barrage of budget reports, parent emails, and minor playground disputes. Sitting in her office with a lukewarm coffee, she felt the familiar weight of administrative exhaustion. Her gaze drifted to the window overlooking the school entrance, a view she usually saw as a checklist of problems, late parents, crying kindergarteners. But today she saw something else. She saw a boy, Leo from Mrs. Davidson's second-grade class, hug a beautiful golden retriever before heading inside. She saw the dog sit perfectly still, its eyes locked on the boy until he was gone. Then, with a calm purpose, it turned and trotted away. Sarah found herself smiling, a genuine, unforced smile that felt foreign on her face. It was a small moment of pure, uncomplicated love in her otherwise complicated day. She didn't know the dog's name or its story, but in that brief, silent exchange, she felt a knot of stress loosen in her shoulders. It was a tiny spark of something good, something she hadn't realized her school and she herself was missing. She made a mental note to ask Leo about his dog, but the morning's chaos soon swallowed her attention, leaving the golden image of the dog as a pleasant, fading memory. Michael Roberts, a retired postman who now served as the school's crossing guard, had seen it all in his 65 years. He thought of his post at the corner of Elm and Maple as his own personal kingdom. He knew every parent's car, every child's nickname, and the daily rhythm of the neighborhood like the back of his hand. He first noticed the dog, whom he secretly named Buddy, about 3 weeks into the school year. At first, he assumed it was a one-time thing, a pet following its kid a little too far. But the next day, there Buddy was again. Michael watched, his stop sign held firmly, as the boy and the dog approached. He saw the quiet understanding between them. The boy would point, and the dog would sit. The boy would speak, and the dog's tail would thump the pavement. When the walk signal flashed, they crossed together, a perfect team. After the boy went inside, Buddy would pause at Michael's corner. It started with a glance. Then, one day, Buddy walked over and gently nudged Michael's hand with his wet nose. Michael, a man not given to public displays of emotion, felt his heart melt just a little. He began to save a small piece of his morning bacon for these encounters. "Here you go, pal," he'd murmur, looking around to make sure no one saw him talking to a dog. "You keep an eye on things for me, you hear?" It became their ritual. In a life that sometimes felt too quiet, this daily dose of unconditional companionship was a treasure. It was a simple investment of kindness that paid dividends in loyalty, a principle Michael deeply respected. Maria Garcia ran the school cafeteria with the precision of a military general and the heart of a grandmother. Her world was one of clattering trays, steaming vegetables, and the constant, cheerful cacophony of hundreds of hungry children. Her focus was always inward on the bustling cafeteria, but on Tuesday, a flash of gold caught her eye through the large service window that faced the front lawn. She saw a beautiful golden retriever sitting patiently under the old oak tree, its gaze fixed on the school's entrance. Curious, Maria asked the lunch monitor, "Whose dog is that?" The monitor just shrugged. The next day, she saw it again, and the next. She started watching for it, this silent, furry sentinel. She noticed how the dog would arrive just before the final bell, as if it had an internal clock more reliable than the school's own. She saw the gentle way it interacted with the crossing guard, Michael. There was a dignity to this animal that touched her. One afternoon, as she was taking out the food waste to the compost bin, she found herself just a few feet from the dog. It looked at her, its tail giving a soft, polite wag, but it didn't move from its post. "You're a good one, aren't you?" Maria said softly. On a whim, she went back inside and came out with a small piece of plain, unseasoned chicken from the salad prep. She placed it on the grass near the dog. It waited a moment, looked at her as if for permission, then gently ate the offering. From that day on, Maria Garcia, the tough-as-nails cafeteria manager, kept a little special snack in a container for the dog she now called Guardian, her own little act of appreciation for this daily display of loyalty. For 2 weeks, the routine was perfect. Sunny would escort Leo, receive his pat from Michael, and wait under the oak tree until Maria would sneak out with her treat. The entire front of school staff now knew him by sight, and smiles would follow his progress. But then, a change. It started subtly. On Tuesday, Sarah Jenkins, looking out her window, noticed a man in a dark blue jacket standing across the street, partially hidden by a parked car. He seemed to be watching the school, his focus unusually intent. She felt a prickly of professional concern, but he left after 10 minutes. The next day, Michael, the crossing guard, saw the same man. He wasn't doing anything wrong, just leaning against a lamppost, but he was there during the morning drop-off again. Michael's old postman instincts told him when someone was out of place, and this man was. He made a point of making eye contact, a silent signal that said, "I see you." The man quickly looked away. The real alarm came from Maria. On Thursday, as she put out Sunny's chicken, she saw the man start to cross the street directly towards Sunny, who was waiting patiently. Sunny's body language shifted, his easy posture stiffened, and a low, almost inaudible growl rumbled in his chest. The man stopped, looked at Maria's stern expression, and abruptly turned around. Maria hurried inside and called Principal Jenkins immediately. "Sarah, it's Maria. There's a man. He's been watching the dog. Today he tried to approach him. It didn't feel right." A cold knot tightened in her stomach. The well-being of every soul on her campus was her responsibility. Was this man a threat to their dog? Or, a more frightening thought, was he a threat who saw the dog as a way to get close to the children? The idyllic scene had just been shadowed by a very real and very adult fear. The following Monday, the air was thick with unspoken tension. The usual cheerful chaos of drop-off was underscored by a watchful silence from the adults. Principal Jenkins stood just inside the main doors, her hand resting on her phone. Michael Roberts held his stop sign like a shield, his eyes constantly sweeping the street. And then, he appeared. The man in the blue jacket stepped out from behind the same parked car and began walking with clear purpose across the street, directly toward where Sunny sat, waiting for his daily treat from Maria. This time, he didn't hesitate, but before he could take 3 steps, Michael moved, positioning himself firmly between the man and the dog. "Can I help you, sir?" Michael's voice was calm but carried the weight of absolute authority. At the same moment, 2 fathers who had been lingering by their cars stepped forward, crossing their arms. From the cafeteria door, Maria emerged, not with a piece of chicken, but with a look of fierce determination. The man stopped, startled by the sudden, unified front. He held up his hands. "Whoa, easy everyone, I'm not here to cause trouble." His voice was strained with emotion. I think that might be my dog." The statement landed like a physical blow. A murmur ran through the small crowd. Susan, Leo's mother, who had just arrived to volunteer, felt the blood drain from her face. Her heart hammered against her ribs. His dog? The man looked at the ring of stern faces, his own eyes glistening. "His name is Sam. We lost him 6 months ago when my family was moving across town. The crate broke in a minor car accident near this very neighborhood. He bolted, and we could never find him. He looked past Michael at Sunny, who was watching the scene intently, his head tilted. My son, he hasn't stopped asking for him. A stunned silence fell over the group. The protective anger that had united them just moments before now splintered into confusion and a dawning sense of tragedy. All eyes turned to Susan, Leo's mother. Her face was pale. She looked from the man, who introduced himself as David Miller, to Sunny, whose loyal gaze was now fixed on her as if seeking reassurance. "His name is Sam?" Susan whispered, the name feeling foreign on her tongue. David nodded, pulling out his phone with trembling hands. He scrolled through photos and showed them to the circle. A younger Sunny, or Sam, wearing a blue bandana, playing in a backyard with a little boy who looked about Leo's age, a boy who wasn't Leo. There was no denying it. The dog in the pictures was their Sunny. "My boy Jake," David said, his voice thick. "He drew pictures of Sam for months. We reported him missing, put up flyers, everything. We thought he was gone for good." The story poured out. The stressful move, the fender bender that spooked the dog, the crate latch failing. He had spent weekends for months driving through neighborhoods, hoping for a glimpse. He'd only recently started focusing on this area. Principal Jenkins felt her heart split in two. She looked at Susan, who had tears streaming silently down her face. She looked at Michael and Maria, whose expressions were a mixture of heartbreak and grim understanding. This was no longer about a suspicious stranger. It was about two families, two boys, and one deeply loved dog. The right thing was suddenly the most painful thing imaginable. How do you choose between healing one child's heart and breaking another's? The decision could not be made on the sidewalk. Principal Jenkins, her voice gentle but firm, invited everyone into her office. Sunny, Sam, walked calmly beside Susan, his head low as if he sensed the heavy emotions in the air. In the quiet of the office, with the door shut, the full weight of the situation settled. David Miller showed more pictures, a timeline of a life before Maple Creek. Susan, in turn, shared her story. "He just showed up in our backyard one evening. He was thin, his paw was cut, and he was so scared. Leo immediately bonded with him. We took him to the vet, checked for a microchip." She trailed off, the horrible truth dawning. The vet said he didn't have one. David hung his head. It was scheduled for the week we were moving. It was on the checklist, and we missed it in all the chaos. It was a catastrophic oversight that had led to this moment. Just then, a soft knock came at the door. It was Leo's teacher. Leo had been sent to the office as per protocol when a parent is in a meeting. The boy stepped in, his eyes immediately going to his mother's tear-streaked face, then to the stranger, and finally to Sunny. He knelt, and the dog went to him, burying his head in his boy's chest. "What's wrong, Mom?" Leo asked, his voice small. Susan took a deep breath and, with incredible gentleness, explained everything. She told him about David, about Jake, and about the dog's other name, Sam. Leo listened, his small hands buried in Sunny's